viewers, I'm going to show you how to set up the ICE1 with all of its safety systems, and we're going to drive ICE781 Hamburg Altona to München HBF. Now I'm going to split it up into sections, so where it's not interesting for you to learn from, I'm going to cut those bits out to make this tutorial as quick as I can. Okay, let's get started. We're going to run from Kassel to Würzburg with one stop in the middle. So first thing we need to do is put our reversing key in and set it to forwards. That wakes up the train. That lets us get the doors open. You can use whatever your favorite controller is for that. Now I'm going to turn on SIFA. So SIFA is a vigilance control that goes off periodically, and if you don't acknowledge it, it stops you. I am going to turn on PZB, which is a signaling acknowledgement system. Again, if you don't acknowledge it, it stops you and you have to obey its instructions. We'll cover them later. Turning on LZB, which is like an adaptive cruise control for trains, and it's controlled by signaling that comes through wire in the track. Turn on AFB, which is a speed control, and I'm going to set it for Freigabe, which is horribly pronounced, but it basically means that we're going to use this lever to set our speed. Now our throttle is currently off, so I'm just going to set the AFB speed all the way up to the maximum because it doesn't matter right now. Let's get our headlights on. If you saw it pop back then, that's just my tired old rail driver. Let's put our master and instrument lights on, so that turns all the lighting on. Let's put this on just a desk light. And let's activate the brake key so that we can take control of our braking systems. Over here we've got the pantograph control and the main circuit breaker. They're all set ready to go, so that's fine. LZB and PZB acknowledge, and we'll cover that later. LZB, PZB release, so when we want to release, and we'll cover that again later, we'll talk that through. And there's the LZB, PZB override. Contact signal are down here on the phone if you need it. Alright, it's time to lock the doors and get out of here. In fact, we are a few seconds late. Release the brakes, and away we go. Giving it about half the beans for the moment, a bit over half. Once we get moving and the whole thing's stretched out nicely, we'll give it the whole beans. There we go, full beans. Now you can see there's a wire down the centre of the track. That's LZB, so it's telling the train how fast to go. It works out based on other traffic and signals and points and curves and all sorts of exciting things like that, how fast you can go. I do note that on windy days you may find that LZB slows you down because it goes over so many high bridges on Kassel Würzburg. It does. Now, we just had the SIFA light come on up there on the dash, and we also saw it on the HUD, and we also saw it down here on the display. Next time SIFA comes up, I'm not going to acknowledge it. Now, AFB, or LZB rather, has just set our target speed to 140, and our distance here is at least 10,000 meters until we slow down. We have 140 on the AFB, so the LZB is controlling that. Now this time SIFA's come on. See the light up here, and you can see it on the HUD and on the dash. There you go. So I'm letting it stop us. So it's telling me emergency stop because I didn't acknowledge SIFA. So the way to react to this, set your throttle back to off. And because we're letting it stop, I want to do that. I'll acknowledge my SIFA. And then down here, there's a button to make it pump up again. So we'll press that, HLL fill, and you'll see the brake system starting to pump up again. Now, we can now just set our throttle back again, and the train will pump up, start releasing the brakes, and it will start to move off all by its lonesome. Now the next time SIFA pops off, I'm not going to acknowledge it, but I'm also not going to let us stop it because I want to show you you don't actually have to stop. Just waiting for the train to fully charge. It had one go and it decided to give up, and now it's going again. And here we go. Alright, SIFA should come up again shortly. This time I'm not going to acknowledge it, so I'm going to let it start braking. So I'm just going to turn our attention over here to the gauge, which shows the brake pipe pressure. Alright, here comes SIFA. Let it start braking. We'll acknowledge it. Hit the button, and we notice we haven't stopped. And accelerate again. And away we go. So you don't actually have to stop. You can just keep going. You can recover it. Alright then, I will cut us short at this point. And I'll bring us back in the first tunnel because there's something I want to show you in the tunnels. But for now, we'll see you soon. Alright, we're in a tunnel now, so let's just use the controls to reduce the brightness of our screens a bit. Just to make them a bit easier to use when you're in the dark places. You don't want to turn them down too much, because then they'll be too dark when you get outside. I've just brought you back as we're approaching yet another tunnel on Kassel, Würzburg, plenty of them. I just wanted to show you on our speedometer here that LZB has set a target speed of 250. We're currently doing 207 and we're accelerating, so we've got power on over here. The blue bars are power. When it goes to the yellow bars, it's braking. You can see the target LZB speed and the AFB speed are set by this little yellow dot here, and that's set at 250, so it matches this display. And we can tell that we're in an LZB area because the U is lit, and we can also see that down here on the HUD. Rightio then, I've just brought you back again for a moment because you'll notice we're going down a fairly steep gradient, and LZB is using the electric eddy brakes to slow the train down to maintain our speed so that we don't go over the 250 speed limit. You can notice on the HUD and on the speedometer display that you can see we had yellow bars which indicated braking. We're starting to go uphill again, and so it's starting to power again. And I'll bring you back for the next interesting thing. Alright, we're on our approach into Fulda now. LZB has set a speed of 220 to be done in 4,200 metres. We're staying ahead of the curve at the moment. We're 8 kilometres out. The red G light has come on, which I wasn't really expecting, because that says we're going to come to a stop. So unless there's a red signal on the way into Fulda, or perhaps at the end of the platform in Fulda, then we'll see what comes. So LZB is staying in front of the curve. You can actually see on the brake gauge here that it has lightly applied the air brake, and it's also using the eddy brakes in a really major way to slow us down, and it's staying ahead of the curve. So at the moment I don't have to do anything, but that G does suggest to me that I will probably need to take control. We're still 5.5 kilometres out of Fulda, and we're slowing down, so we've got a 0 indication on LZB now. So I'll be keeping an eye on this because, yeah, that means we're coming to a stop and we're too far from Fulda, so there must be a signal. We shall see what we shall see. Expect the unexpected, as they say. No one expects the German ICE to have a G. Lots of SIFA-ing going on. So if there is a signal, which is what I suspect, I'm just keeping an eye on the slowing down to make sure it stays ahead of the curve so I don't have to help. If the G starts to flash, then I need to brake. Still 3 kilometres out of Fulda. Staying ahead of the curve nicely so far. There's another ICE1. Hello, ICE1. You're our only hope, ICE1. Well, our G-light's gone off and back on. Alright, and now we have a target speed of 100. So perhaps that other train was in our way, because we appear to be speeding up again, and we're not very far out of Fulda. So that other train might have been crossing our path or something along those lines. I'm speculating, of course. I don't actually know. We are slowing down. The signal is green. We don't have to acknowledge the speed change because even though we're under PZB, LZB is in control. Now this thing is a kilometre out and it started speeding up, so I am throttling off and acknowledging my SIFA, and I'm going to start braking because we're only a kilometre out of the platform. Now it's up to me to stay in front of the braking curve now, or it will stop me rather dramatically. You notice I've left the AFB VSOL lever where it was. And the flashing G light came on for a moment there, but I got back in front of the curve. Just bring the train to a comfortable stop. Our signal is the one up on the right there, so we've got plenty of room. Alright, doors open. Now I'll just explain what was happening there. So I put my throttle back to 0 so that I could take control and stop the train, because LZB would have just gone flying straight through the platform because it obeys signals, not platforms, not stations, doesn't care. Now, at one point we did have an adverse indication, which would suggest to me that that other ICE train that we saw probably crossed our path. It probably came out of maybe even this platform and went over onto the other track. So you just need to keep an eye on things. And I left the VSOL lever where it was, this one, which is the AFB speed lever. It's still set to pretty much the maximum, which is fine. That's all we need to do. So I can quite likely actually release the brakes at this point, because they won't release all the way. If you remember, this train won't go because the doors are open. Righto, time to go. Let's get the doors locked. And all we have to do now is give it some power. Train will wake up, start powering, and release the brakes, and off we go. We're now back under LZB control, having relinquished our manual control. Now that we're all stretched out, let's go full beans again. And as they say in the classic, beans means farts. So LZB has our departure speed at 100 kilometers an hour. We'll see that pick up shortly. SIFA. And the ICE1 departs Fulda with all of the gracefulness of a seal. Righto, welcome back. LZB started slowing us down to 230 kilometers an hour, and the braking has commenced. We'll keep an eye on that. We are approaching Würzburg. The red G was on for a while, but has just gone off again. LZB's now set a target speed of 160 kilometers an hour in 7,100 meters. And once again, yeah, I think we'll be fine on the braking for now. We are going downhill though, so we may have to help. I'll just bring this down a little so we can see if it's supplying the air brakes or not. Right now it's not. It's only using the eddy current braking. We are slightly behind the speed curve at the moment. So we may have to help it. We'll just see. Red G light returns. SIFA. Sometime soon I'll be expecting the ender light to start flashing. When that does, we have 10 seconds to acknowledge it. Yeah, we've got some pretty heavy braking going on now. We've got an indicated speed of 100 in 4,200 meters. So you can see LZB has slightly applied the air brake and is very heavily applying the eddy brakes. It's gotten itself way ahead of the curve, so it's backed off a little on the braking. We're in good robot hands. Oh, claws. Four kilometers out. I expect the ender light to start flashing very soon. And we are SIFA and we're going too fast, so I'm applying some brakes to slow us down and get us below the curve before we get exam springfang. There we go. We've got ender light flashing, so I have released that. You get 10 seconds to acknowledge that, and that means that LZB is coming to an end soon. So in 1100 meters, oh, sorry, 11,000 meters time. 11,000? 1100. 1100. So the ender light is now on solid, which tells me that we acknowledged it. The fact that we haven't stopped tells me that I acknowledged it successfully and in the right time frame. So now we've got to start keeping an eye on things because we're coming out of LZB, which means PZB will be taking over. LZB has set a target speed of 60 kilometers an hour as we come out of the final tunnel prior to Würzburg. Now at this point I will set our throttle to off. Acknowledge that SIFA. And alright, PZB's come off. I'm acknowledging the adverse conditions there. Now we've got 1.3 kilometers to go. And we need to break down to 30 soon. And we've got a SIFA as well. I'm going to start braking now because we're going to have to come down to 30 kilometers an hour soon. And I'm just leaving the VSOL lever where it is, so it's set for maximum right now still. Alright, I've gotten it down to the 30. I can just leave that be now. Now if I need to power again, I can. But just realise that if you do it, VSOL will try and take you up to 280 odd kilometres an hour for AFB. But if you need to power a bit, you certainly can. Now I've let us come down to just under 25 kilometres an hour because somewhere around the end of this platform I expect a 500 Hertz magnet. Because there's a red signal at the other end of the platform. There's another SIFA. SIFA always seems to pop up when you most need to observe something else. There we go. We have a restricted. And it's warning me that it's not safe to release PZB, which is fine. We should have a 500 Hertz. There we go. So I could have come into the platform faster because it's telling me I have to be at 49 at this point. We're just coming on in quite happily. And we have to stop before that red signal down there, or the last hour or so is pretty much for nothing. Try and get close to the green, but not run through the signal. And that'll be just about it. Open the doors. Alright then, that's all there is to my tutorial for running the ICE1 on Kassel, Würzburg. Actually, before you go, I should explain the other buttons for LZB. So if you want to travel between 0 and 25, that one, 0 and 10, that one. So they might be used shunting in a yard. 0 to 5, you might use that in a wash, and 0 to 2, you might use that moving around a maintenance shed. Alright, that is it. So if you've got any questions, chuck them in the comments below, and I'll see what I can do to help you out. And if you like this, give it a thumbs up, and if you're not already, give it a subscribe. Alrighty, see you later.